We're excited to be here today to talk with Suzanne Osmond.
Glad to be here.
And this is really fun. The reason we're here today is I understand you have a passion for food.
Well, I do, and I have to have a passion for food because I have a big family.
You raised 8 boys.
8 boys, and they're mostly raised now. We have 6 that are married and 2 to go. So
that amazes me. I mean, I look at you and I think, how could this elegant, beautiful woman possibly raise 8 boys and still look this great?
You take it one day at a time. One day at a time. But boys obviously love to eat.
Oh, a lot of food, probably.
Right, and so we're grateful for those big box stores where we can go get a lot of supplies. And
now, were they picky eaters growing up? Or?
They all had their favorites. And no matter what I made, there's usually something that somebody didn't care for, but there were a few dishes that everybody loved. There were those favorite things too. And so we found those things and tried to give variety and nutrition at the same time. And with that, I have learned a lot about cooking. And I was raised in a big family too. I was the oldest girl, 3rd of 7. And so my mother was a great cook. And she taught me a lot of tricks in the kitchen, how to have things all come out at the same time. That's kind of a talent, and how you have to gear things. Just the order of doing things so that it does come out well. And she was a great example of that.
So she spent a lot of time in the kitchen. And obviously that really helped you to understand the value of spending time in the kitchen. Because in today's world, it seems like mothers are kind of moving out of the kitchen.
Well, and I have a memory of when I was about 8 years old. I came home late in the day. It was a cold winter day. And as I walked into the house and smelled the cookies coming out of the oven and dinner being cooked in the kitchen, and just feeling that feeling of being home and the security, and I made a conscious decision at that time, at 8 years old, that my children were going to get that too. And so when there's a stormy day, my kids know it's a baking day.
Oh my goodness.
So when they come through the door, they know they're going to smell fresh homemade bread or cookies or something that says, welcome home.
You know, I have the same memory of homemade bread growing up. We knew every Monday was homemade bread day, and to this day, when I walk in a room and smell homemade bread, I feel like I'm at home. And I'm probably the same thing for you. If you smell that, you've probably... Right. It's amazing what the smells of food do. You know, they've just had some studies come out that talk about that. Children coming home to fresh baked bread, the difference that makes. Now, I'm just curious, what was mealtime like in the Osmond family with 8 boys?
Well, Alan had a saying in his family, which was 8 boys and 1 girl, survival of the fastest. So you had to be there and get, we usually ate more buffet. So if they wanted a lot right off the stove, it stayed warm that way, and if they wanted seconds, they could just go right back up and dish up what they wanted. But they always know, and even to this day, that about 6 o'clock at night, there's dinner.
There's dinner time.
And so we have boys that will just kind of stop in or call or whatever. Sundays, we have just an open door policy, whoever wants to come. So we make enough for the Army, and they show up. Somebody's here every Sunday. And we love that. We love having our children close. And I think it is that food that brings us together. It surrounds a table. It causes conversation.
Now, you just said something I want to ask you about that in detail. Now, you said your family ate buffet style, but did they eat around the table together?
Yes.
Now,
yes.
Why do you think that's important, that the family eats together rather than they grab a plate and go sit in front of the TV or out in the backyard or something?
No, we like to be together, and it's just fun to sit back and watch and listen to the laughter, to the conversation that's going on, to the bonding that's being created.
Now that's now.
And even then.
And even then?
Even then. We used to live in a home when the boys were little where I had a big bar with the chairs all around. And a lot of times we'd sit there, my stovetop was right in the middle of that. And I had 6 chairs around, and I would usually just do this and shovel out and stand there and eat as we faced each other. And that's when they were little. Then as we got a little bit more, a little older, we started going to the dining table. And I tried to set a table with napkins and everything, just so they would have that experience, to learn some manners. These are boys. They need to learn how to have some manners when they're taking a girl out on a date. And sometimes I would look around the table and I would say, who's using his napkin? because they'd be sitting there, and just to be funny, they'd pick it up and put it on their head. No, I'm using mine, just to be funny.
Oh, how
But they
fun.
still learned, what does a place setting look like? And how am I supposed to be eating at the table? Do I eat, do I use my manners that I've been taught, or do I not? Is it offensive when somebody else has not used manners at the table? So I think some of those lessons can be taught as well.
That's a great point you bring up about, I never thought about, the importance of teaching manners. A lot of times when you talk about family gathering around the table and you think about lessons that they learn, but manners was one that, now, what are some of the other lessons? I think, and it's important, I really want our listeners to understand the importance of family gathering together. What are some of the other benefits that you saw with your family of gathering around the table? I mean, as a parent, were there things that you observed that you wouldn't have seen any other way? That
It's funny to hear the stories that come out that they never shared with me from missions that they were on and other experiences of life, that when they're with their brothers and sisters-in-law now, because we don't have any daughters, the stories that they share that I never would hear otherwise.
in any other setting you wouldn't
Any
hear
other
those.
setting I probably never would hear. But they're comfortable, they're sitting there with a plate of food in front of them. It's very social, so they're very verbal. And they talk, they share, they joke, they do pranks, they tell. It's just a lot of fun to be together. And at the same time, they don't really realize it, but bonds are being formed. And unity is being
there
strengthened.
again, food is a common bond. The food brings them together to where those experiences can be shared to where they wouldn't. And it's really funny when you're together in a family setting and food just triggers memories.
Oh, it
I mean,
does.
you just think about, oh my goodness, I ate this when I was on my mission. And then you start talking about I ate this, at school. It just does bring up so many things that you wouldn't think about.
It does. And recipes that have been handed down from grandparents even, that we still make today. There are some things we do that we know Grandma Great made, that we still love,
And that
that are
just
some of our
even binds
favorites.
the family further back.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
So
that-
it goes both directions.